Hey guys, this is Carrie, and in this video I'm going to be showing you how to add filters to your images. So I think this is a really cool feature of CSS. It's got a whole bunch of image properties that I just Googled, and I think it'll be really interesting to check these out. So we're going to go through them one at a time. So here we've got a web page. It's a bunch of HTML. I'll delete these. I'm just making some other videos. And it creates this web page, a whole bunch of very familiar images at this point of my vacation a couple summers ago. So let me start to add some styles. So the first style I think we want to apply is we want to make all of the images have a width of 200 pixels just so we can manage things. Give it a save and a refresh. That looks much better. I'm going to start by styling image 1. So I'm going to start by giving image 1 an ID of, I don't know, image 1. So now I'm going to select that image by doing hashtag image1 to get the image with ID of image 1. And I'm going to apply a filter to this. So looking at our choices here, we've got a bunch of choices. The first one is blur. And blur looks like it takes in a pixel measurement in order to change it. So let me give that a shot. Blur, I don't know, let's start with 2 pixels. Save it and refresh it. And you notice that this picture is a lot blurrier. And I actually kind of like that as an effect in general. So maybe a cool effect would be to come back to this later and make it so that all the images start off blurred and then they refocus when you hover over them. You can experiment with different values here, like blur, I don't know, 10 pixels is going to be very hard to even see, but a very blurry image. All right, cool. So let's look at some other these properties. So I'm going to give image 2, let's see, another filter, and that one, instead of being the blur filter, that will be the brightness filter. So for brightness, when I look down here, brightness is actually given as a percent, and it says 0% will make it black, 100% is the normal, and then values over 100% will provide brighter results. So this is called using the documentation, because this is documentation of a function in order to understand how to use it. So I want to actually darken this image. So I'm going to choose a value less than 100%. So maybe 90%. Let's give it a save and a refresh. And you can see it's a little darker. That wasn't too extreme though. So maybe 50% would be even more extreme. And then we got a nice shady looking image right there. Contrast is going to do something similar, but with the contrast. So let me style image 3 like so. So image 3 is going to have a filter, and that one is called contrast. And in this case, I'm going to contrast this one to have a really large contrast, so 150%. Save it and refresh it. And you get that really sort of terrible looking Instagram overly saturated looking photo, overly contrasted photo right here. But we could go even crazier and do, I don't know, 200%. Let's see how bad that looks. That looks really bad, but I see a lot of people fake photos like that all the time, so that's what it really looks like. All right, next up, we've got drop shadow. So I don't know what this one even does. It looks like there's an H shadow, a V shadow, a blur, and a spread color. That might be a little complicated for what I want to do in this video, but they have an example down here. So why don't I just give it a shot? I'll say select image 4 and apply this filter to it. They actually gave me that too. All right, and I have to give my ID to image 4 so that when it's selected, it will work out. So save it and refresh it. Wow, it's crazy. Okay, that was fun. You could probably play around with these numbers and get a very different effect. So maybe -8, let's see how that looks. All right, cool, it's just the other side. That's fun. All right, grayscale is gonna convert the image to grayscale. So 0% is the normal, and then 100% is black and white. So with this, I actually think it will be cool if we make the next 2 images black and white. So I'm going to use a class here. So I'm going to say class equals B and W for black and white. And I'm going to give that class to the next 2 images. And now what I'm going to say is go into the class, or find the class, images of class B and W, and apply the filter of grayscale. And it looks like 100% to be black and white, so I'm going to try 90% to see how that looks. And so we get mostly black and white images here and here, which is really cool. Hue rotate, wow, these are pretty crazy. Let's see how many there are. I probably don't need to show you all of these. I'm just going to do a couple more. So hue rotate. It looks like there's a degree measure that goes here, and they say the maximum value is 360 degrees. So hue is another way to specify colors, and I think this is going to come out really ugly, but let me give an ID of image 7 to the 7th image, and then let me select the 7th image using its ID, and apply the filter of hue rotate, and I have to put a degree measure in here, so I'm going to put 90 degrees and just see how that looks. Wow, so that's pretty dramatic, pretty wild looking. And then finally, I think it would be interesting for me to do a sepia one. Or actually, maybe it's interesting for you to do a sepia one. I'm going to leave the rest of these not explored for now. But I think one thing that would be interesting is to use multiple filters. So it says to use multiple filters, separate each filter with a space. So it says see more examples below. So I'm going to scroll down to more examples, and I'm going to take a look at more examples. All right, all of these examples are just regular examples. Here we go, using multiple filters. So it looks like the version that I want is just 2 spaces. So let me take image 8, give it an ID, and then in image 8, I'm going to actually give it a couple of the filters that we've already seen. So I'm going to give it a filter hue rotate, 45 degrees this time. Then I'm going to also give it a filter of, let's say, contrast, 150%. And I'm also going to give it a filter of grayscale. Actually, no, grayscale will undo that. Let me give it a filter of blur. And blur is 10 pixels here, so I'm going to do just 1 pixel of blur. And so notice that all of the filters are in the same property, and they're all separated by a space, not a comma. So let's save this and refresh it. And now we've got that really interesting rotated hue. So it has that weird color effect. It looks like an alien world. Contrast, so it's extra contrasty, similar to this one. And then blurred, so it's hard to actually see, like this one. So this is a way that you can actually do CSS to set some of your image filters as though you were on Instagram. So we didn't actually do any Photoshop here, but we got to change the files pretty dramatically. So I hope you find this interesting to do with images of your own.